Hello everyone, I am Sonal Gogri, professor from Faculty of Business Administration, GLS University. In the previous session, we talked about methods of training. The two categories of methods of training are on-the-job methods and off-the-job methods. And we talked about job rotation and understudy. In this session, we shall be talking about apprenticeship method and vestibule training method. So starting with apprenticeship method. What is apprenticeship? So this is a kind of training given to graduates for their specific skills. It is like a vocational training, sort of it, not exactly, where people learn trades and crafts. Specific skills are being learned through apprentices. So apprenticeship system is a system of training new generation of practitioners of a skill. It is often associated with vocational training. It is an association only. This method of training is in vogue in those trades, crafts and technical fields in which a long period is required for gaining proficiency. The trainees serve as apprentices to experts for long period. They have to work in direct association with and also under the direct supervision of their masters. The apprentices are paid remuneration according the apprentice agreements. So they are being paid remuneration or stipends too. Now there is a difference between apprenticeship and internship since both have trainees. So there is a slight difference between the two. Internship is normally done by college students. For example, students doing MBA, BBA go for summer internships for a very short period of time, 2 months, 3 months, a month or so, just to get some hands-on experience of how the companies or management or organization works. Apprenticeship is very much serious and long-term in nature since the apprentices learn the skills. Those skills would help them in their career. So while completing an internship is almost expected for college graduates seeking employment, internship is for normally college graduates, and an apprenticeship almost guarantees you a high paying job once you successfully complete it. So it is like a guarantee for a job. Apprenticeship is therefore for a very long period of time. When it comes to an internship, most people either do it for a semester or summer and then move on to the next one or get a full-time hired job. While an apprenticeship, it can take years to complete and requires a full-time commitment. So it is definitely a longer period of term. It requires commitment, long period. So the question could be how long? It could be 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even 4 years of long training. And therefore, of course, the pay is also greater because the commitment is long and hence the pay is also greater. And what happens at the end of the apprenticeship? It almost guarantees you a job. So usually an apprentice comes out of the job. Apprenticeship program offers access to occupations like carpenter, chef, electrician, fire medic, dental assistant, pipe fitters, etc. If you see all these skills, all these are skill oriented work where you require to have certain specific skills and abilities to perform the job, and it takes time to gain proficiency in learning these skills. So what could be the possible advantages of this method? Apprenticeship training is a process by which people become skilled workers, usually through a combination of formal learning and long-term on-the-job training. This is also an on-the-job training method which is often done under a master's craftsperson's tutelage. On the job, I hope you now remember, you are learning while you are working, right? And you also earn while you learn. So it's a method of on-the-job training. यहाँ पे हम जो भी ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हैं हमारा उससे काम अफेक्ट होता है. Organization's work gets affected. You are contributing. The object of such training is to make the employees or trainees all-round craftsmen. The method is called Earn While Learn program. It is mastering in a particular job field and it makes the employee job ready. So apprenticeship is mastering or specializing in a skill where your skills, your proficiency increases, your specialization increases. Disadvantage, There is no guarantee that the trained worker will continue to work in the same organization after securing training. So there is no guarantee that the person will continue to work in the same organization. So for an organization, it is definitely expensive since they are giving so much of time, commitment to an employee to learn something, and they're expecting this, that we are investing so much in the trainee will join us back, but it is not necessary. The trainee might join some other organization also. And for an organization, the organization, it's a long commitment, it's a risky commitment too. Second, since it's a trainee where organization is investing to learn, make employees learn how to work, and therefore the wages are also less. This is also disadvantage from the point of view of employees, that they are committing for a very long period for less wages. So even the longer period is also the disadvantage. Since there's lot of time being given, less wages are given and may or may not continue for the long term. Also, organization has invested lot of time and money in training the employee. It is definitely an expensive method of training, right? But since if an employee is, if a person is looking for proficiency, skill oriented work and want to master a particular skill, then apprenticeship is the only option. So the next method is vestibular training method. What is vestibular training method? As you can see some pictures, this method is also called as simulation method. What do you mean by simulation? In simulation method, the actual work environment or the work environment similar to the actual work is created. It is an artificial work environment where employees learn how to work, but they are not actually in the work. So it is not on the job training, it is near the job training where employees learn to work near the job. यहाँ पे आपको photos दिख रहे होंगे. There is this person who is learning to drive the plane. There is this person who is learning to drive the car, right? Now these are vestibular training method. When it comes to driving a plane, flying a plane, you learn, flying a plane is a risky job. There's a risk of life, not only yours, but also the passengers. 200 passengers might be there in a plane. So when the job is risky, you do not just ask a pilot to start flying. So there is first vestibular training where a pilot learns how to fly in an artificial environment. In that artificial environment, the pilot learns the machine, also how to fly, how to land, how to crash. Not how to crash, but when there's a situation of crash, how to overcome those situations. When there's a fire, what happens, right? When there's a turbulence, what might happen. So the pilot learns by simulation method. Similarly, in organizations, when there are heavy machineries, the employees or the machineries are kept under difficult, sensitive environment, extreme temperatures. In that case also, the employees learn in a vestibular environment. For example, iron ore industries. So what is vestibular training method? It is a term used for near the job training. It is not on the job. You cannot directly keep a person in that risky job and risk his life as well as others. And therefore, in this method, it is called as near the job training, as it offers access to a new learning. In vestibular training, the workers are trained in a prototype environment, which we call it as a simulated method. It is a prototype environment on specific jobs in a special part of the plant. Here, what happens in this prototype? एक working condition हमने create किया है जो work environment के जैसा ही है, real work environment के जैसा. So it is an attempt to create working condition similar to the actual workshop condition. After training workers in such condition in simulated environment, the trained workers may be put on similar jobs in the actual workshop. Duration ranges from few days to few weeks, and it prevents trainees to commit costly mistakes on the actual machine. Right? Of course, costly mistake नहीं होंगी क्योंकि यहाँ पे हम एक artificial environment में काम कर रहे हैं. So employees can make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. So अगर आपने उसी employee को directly main work में रखा होता with that complex machinery and risky job, the mistakes could have been really very costly. Let us understand the definition of the vestibular training. It is one of the methods of training where the technical staff, especially those who deal with the tools and machinery, are given the job education training in the workplace other than the main production plant. There are special trainers or the specialists who impart this training to the technical staff, thereby reducing the burden on the line supervisor who has to supervise the entire production process. So यहाँ पे ट्रेनिंग कौन दे रहा है? स्पेशल ट्रेनर्स और स्पेशलिस्ट, डायरेक्ट सुपरवाइजर नहीं, क्योंकि अगर डायरेक्ट सुपरवाइजर ट्रेनिंग देंगे तो फिर वो अपना जो मेन काम है सुपरविजन का एट प्रोडक्शन ऑफिस वो सफर होगा. The vestibule training can be conducted in classrooms or at the workstations. That can be within the main production plant or in close proximity to it. Under this training, the emphasis is on learning rather than production. So the emphasis is clear, there is learning and production, and you can see training workstation kahan pe hai? Near the production plant or inside it. So it is not at actual workplace nor extremely off the job. So it is near the job. What could be the benefits of this method? First, it is useful to give training to large number of people performing the same type of job. You can train a lot of people together, a group of people together in the prototype environment. The workers concentrate only on training and are not afraid about making mistakes in the production process. So their concentration is only on training. And since they are not scared of anything, they could experiment and learn it effectively. The actual work does not suffer as the vestibule training is conducted at the simulated workplace and not on the actual work floor. The workers accustom themselves with the simulated work environment and thus their nervousness or anxiety reduces before going to the actual work. So if the person is thorough with how to fly a plane in a prototype environment, so जब वो real plane में बैठेंगे, their nervousness or anxiety will be low because now they understand the machine, understand the theoretical concept of the machine before they start the engine. So this helps, this kind of training helps in reducing the nervousness and anxiety before the employees are shifted to the real risky jobs. The other advantages continued, the vestibule training is given by the specialist, thus more time can be devoted to each worker's problem, which otherwise would not have been possible in the case of line supervisor who is responsible for the entire production process and has a less time for the trainees, right? Since just we discussed, यहाँ पे एक special trainer और specialist की जरूरत पड़ेगी for training. A direct supervisor, direct line manager cannot give that training, otherwise the real work would suffer. So the advantage is specialist है तो काम भी suffer नहीं हो रहा, training भी अच्छी तरह से हो रही है. This type of training is suitable for complex and risky jobs, flying a plane, iron ore industries, complex machineries, right? All these are complex and risky jobs, and this type of training is needed in this kind of a job. A primary advantage of vestibule training is that it relieves the employee from the pressure of having to produce while learning. So there is no pressure of producing, there is no pressure of outcome, your efforts are not marked, right? Since you are not scared of making mistakes. So the best part is you are learning, your work is not getting suffered, and then there is no pressure that what would happen if I made a mistake. And therefore the emphasis is on learning skills required by the job. I hope what is vestibule training and its advantages are clear. Of course, the method also has disadvantages, and since it is very clear that the method the first disadvantage would be, it is a very costly method. क्योंकि हम एक prototype बना रहे हैं same, right? वहाँ पे हमने special trainer को रखा है job करने के लिए, सिखाने के लिए. So this is going to be an expensive method. The vestibule training is costly since it involves simulated workplace, where duplication of machinery, tools, equipments, etc. of actual work floor is required to make the workers have a real-time experience. तो अगर आपको उन्हें real experience देना है, सारी machineries, tools, equipment सब कुछ duplicated होगा और सब कुछ ऐसा prototype बनाना is definitely expensive क्योंकि सिर्फ बनाना नहीं है. We have to keep it in a environment which is similar to workplace, वो environment maintain करना, duplicated machineries को maintain करना is definitely an expensive thing. You need that space, you need land, you need machineries, you need to maintain, you need trainer, and hence it is an expensive, very expensive method. The trainer has to be skilled and thus demands more money for giving the vestibular training. Since it's a risky job, तो वहाँ पे trainer को भी skilled होना पड़ेगा. And of course, if the trainer is specialist and skilled, then here also it's going to be an expensive method. It is time consuming method since the entire setup is to be created before giving the training to the workers. So it is definitely a time consuming method. You have to first create a prototype, then spend time with the workers, train them, and then shift them to the actual workplace. It is absolutely difficult to duplicate the pressures and realities of actual decision making on the job. So duplicating the pressures and realities is not possible even in the simulated environment. Hence, the workers may find it little difficult to adjust to the real work environment. What does this mean? Imagine you have been given a prototype जहाँ पे you are learning to fly a plane. पर आपको पता है ये एक prototype है. You would fly it like you are playing a video game, right? And someone has asked, आपको एक imagine करना है, there is this environment created, 5D environment created, that there is this turbulence and you have to take a decision. You might take up some decision being very cool because you know यहाँ पे कोई risk नहीं है. But that pressure may not be the real pressure. Imagine now you're driving a plane in real, right? And there are 200 passengers back there and you are responsible for everyone's life. In that case, you may not be that cool, that calm. You might be nervous, you might have a lot of anxiety and you might take up wrong decisions. So the real pressures of the real job, risk job, cannot be duplicated in the simulated environment. So now imagine you have spent so much of money in training someone, but still that duplicating the real pressure and realities of decision making cannot be duplicated even in the simulated environment. Individuals often act differently in real life situation than they do in acting out a simulated exercise. So maybe in simulation, in a prototype environment, an employee might have worked wonderful, might have taken best decisions, but in realities, it might affect them. So now we talked about so many disadvantages. It is expensive, duplicate नहीं कर सकते आप pressure. तो ये method की जरूरत क्यों है? Imagine अगर ये method ही ना हो, तो employees को और भी ज़्यादा risky हो जाएगा वो product या वो training सीखने के लिए. So it is necessary. Definitely for risky and complex jobs. You cannot do away without vestibular training in case of certain risk-oriented jobs. So vestibular training is necessary when it is too costly or dangerous to train employees on the job. जब आप on the job नहीं कर सकते, off the job, so there is no point to teach. You cannot teach someone to fly a plane in a classroom. So यहाँ पे you require near the job training method. Putting new assembly line workers right to work could slow production. For instance, and when safety is a concern, as with pilots, simulated training may be the only practical alternative. Time for a small quiz. Let me ask you two questions. First one, generally, the dash training is conducted when any new technology is launched and the workers are required to learn about its operations in the simulated work environment, thereby not hampering the actual work production process. The point is clear to remember here. It's a new technology, right? Workers have to learn about its operations in the simulated work environment. So simulation is possible in vestibular training. Second one, the dash training gives a real chance to put the skills into practice, which helps in gaining more confidence in the profession. So when you're talking about skills, proficiency in skills in the real profession, the answer is apprenticeship training. So in the last two sessions, we've discussed 4 methods of training: job rotation, understudy, apprenticeship and vestibule. These 4 methods of training are done. In the next session, we would be discussing methods of development, and then there are 4 different methods of development. Thank you so much.